Welcome to the Heal Your Hunger Show, where we get to the heart of why you overeat and how to stop. If you struggle with food and weight like I did, welcome home. Welcome to the Heal Your Hunger Show. I'm so happy that you've joined me here. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's a beautiful winter day here in Los Angeles, which means the sun is shining, but there's a nip in the air. And I wore a hat this morning on my walk pray. So it's always a great day when I can wear a hat in Los Angeles. So people think of LA as being hot and tropical, and it's not. It's desert weather, so there's usually a nip in the air in the winter months. So anyway, I don't mind it a bit. I've got some cool boots that I like to wear out, and some hats, and it's kind of fun to put that stuff on, especially if you grew up in the winter weather somewhere else, which I did. I grew up in the Northeast, and so I love a good cold day. And lately we've been having a lot of rain, so a good cold rainy day is even better. But let's get on with the show. I'm going to tell you a fun food fact. I'm going to start many of my programs with a fun food fact, just for the fun of it. Now, if you put lemons and limes in water, lemons will float and limes will sink. And I had no idea about this. I'd never noticed. And I love lemons and lime in my water. But the lemons are usually bigger in size, which means they're heavier, and it really comes down to density, okay? Lemons have around the same density as water, and they also have pores all over their rind, which are like tiny air pockets. So the air pockets help them float, whereas limes are denser than the water, so they naturally sink, and their skin is denser. There's not so much room for that air to exist. So just a little fun food fact. Now, today's show is about the why 98% of all diets fail. Now, we've all heard that statistic, and we all kind of know diets don't work. I mean, we sort of all say as a mantra, diets don't work. If you've been around this weight loss scene for a while, if it's not your first rodeo, you've probably experienced firsthand that diets don't work. Why don't they work? Well, we all know they're unsustainable, and people will go back to the way they were eating before and this kind of thing. They're not realistic. They're too hard to follow, whatever. So we get it. We get that diets don't work. But I want to dig into this further because I think it's really illuminating, at least why I believe diets really don't work. And you have to understand that when we artificially lose weight, okay, we go on a proposed plan, a food plan or diet plan where we are losing weight at a faster pace than we would normally if we were just maybe upping our exercise a little bit or taking some key ingredients out like sugar or flour out of our diet. When we're really making a concerted effort to lose weight, it's artificial, right? Because we don't go around throughout our lives trying to lose, well, a lot of people do try to lose weight, but my point is it's not a natural state. Normally we just eat and maintain whatever weight we're at. So this artificial imposition of a diet in our lives it's very true, it's not sustainable. But what's really important for the emotional eater to know is that the reason why we can't keep the weight off is because we can't handle being in a thinner body. Okay, we can't emotionally, psychologically, mentally handle being in a thinner body. Now, there are scientists who will say that even physically, our bodies aren't accustomed to that lower weight. There's a set point that our weight was before, and our metabolism will actually slow down to help us get back to that set point. So there's a physiological reason to it as well. But I think that's far less important than the emotional and psychological. Okay. Now, for people who are emotional eaters and who struggle chronically with their weight, it's important to know that the food isn't just doing something to us. The food and weight, we go on a diet, we try to lose weight because we're sick of it. We're sick of being fat. We're sick of these, this muffin top over our pants. We're sick of being bloated or unattractive or zitty, in our face. So there's lots of reasons, right? Health, our doctor tells us we have to lose weight. So we get that the weight is doing something to us. I mean, it's hard to live in our culture and not know that being overweight has a lot of health detriments, okay? So we think about what weight's doing to us, but we don't consider what weight is doing for us, okay? What excess food and weight is doing for us. And I want to talk about that because that's one of the reasons why the weight loss is virtually impossible when it's artificially imposed. Now, food serves three primary functions. I've talked about this before, but it bears repeating again. I overate because food was an amazing painkiller, okay? I had pain from my past, from my childhood pain, trauma, whatever it is. I had pain in my current circumstances. I was overweight. I wasn't as popular as I wanted to be. I had frustrating feelings that I couldn't handle. So I had pain, and food was an anesthetic for that pain. I'd come home from school, I'd get a bag of popcorn, or I'd make a huge bowl of popcorn, and I'd nibble on other things in the house, surely flour and sugar related, and all of a sudden I wouldn't feel any pain. Food also serves as an escape, okay? I had a tremendous amount of fear, and I find that emotional eaters have inordinate amounts of fear. We're more fearful, more anxiety-ridden than your average person, okay? And food is a panacea. Food is a tranquilizer for our fear. It's an escape. When life seems overwhelming, when it just feels like too much and we can't take it anymore, we escape in food. Okay, it's another way that food is serving us. And the last way is a form of punishment. My experience is emotional eaters have a tremendous amount of guilt. We're very sensitive, and we carry guilt. We feel bad about a lot of things. Warranted and unwarranted, okay? We take on other people's guilt and shame. We take responsibility for things that have nothing to do with us, okay? It's just the way we are. We absorb this stuff. And so we punish ourselves for our terrible thoughts and feelings and behaviors sometimes. If we act shitty towards other people, we punish ourselves with food. So food serves as a painkiller, an escape, and a form of punishment, okay? It's treating the pain, the fear, and the guilt. Now, we don't think of that. We just think, got to get this weight off when we want to lose weight, okay? But we don't think that this weight is serving us so that when we do artificially lose weight, we can't handle it, okay? We can't handle the thinner body because we are all of a sudden barren and without the coping mechanisms that food provided for us. And that's why if you just go on a diet and you're just like, I got to get this weight off fast, it is guaranteed to fail because you haven't built underneath you a support and a replacement for the functions that food served for you. I get how alluring diets are, right? When we're overweight or we've gained weight and we feel disgusting, we want the weight off fast, okay? So diets are so seductive because it's like your house is on fire and you want to put the fire out right away, And so even though intellectually we're like, we know diets don't work, we're still like, oh, but this time, right? Just this time, I'm going to just do this quick fast or this detox, and I'm going to, clear everything out and drink only liquids, and I'm going to get the weight off fast. So it's very seductive because it's an awful feeling gaining weight. It's an awful feeling not fitting into our jeans and having to wear bigger, baggier clothing. I mean, nobody likes that. So that temptation to do something as a quick fix, that diet mentality, it comes around over and over and over again in spite of our past experiences, in spite of what we know. Our experience proves that diets never work. I mean, if diets worked, we wouldn't be going on a diet because we've already been on 10 or 15 of them before. But in the moment, this is the only time emotional eaters are truly present. We're in the moment thinking, get this weight off of my body now. We're not thinking in the past. We're not thinking in the future. We're thinking right now. Get it off of me now. And that's why we fall into the trap of diets. But it's important to know that food is a symptom, okay? The excess overweight is a symptom of overeating. And overeating is a symptom of what's eating you. And so without addressing that, I mean, you might as well not start. And I mean that for reals. You might as well not start, because to put your body through the diet and the yo-yo process without doing the real work underneath, you're doomed to failure, and you're doomed to just hurting your body and hurting the elasticity in your skin and all the other things that happen when we do that yo-yo routine. So my proposal to you is look underneath, build some support structures underneath, go within. Slapping a diet from the outside on a problem that started on the inside is doomed to fail. Okay. And so what we need to do is we need to address that pain. We need to address that fear and that guilt. And that may seem like way, way too big a job for you. Come on, I want this weight off. But let me give you an example. I saw recently a documentary about, it's called The Weight of the Nation. And it's a good documentary. There's lots of pieces to it, all these different studies that doctors are doing, all these medical centers around the country are trying to really figure this obesity situation out. And God bless them. They're spending a lot of money and they're making some discoveries. However, I don't believe they're really going to ever get to the bottom of it, because they're approaching it, again, from a strictly medical and physiological point of view, which is so short-sighted. So the New York Obesity Research Center at Columbia University Medical Center did this study. They looked for volunteers and they asked people to be a part of this weight loss study. And what these patients had to do is commit 9 months of their life and live at this hospital, okay, this research hospital. They literally put aside their life and went and lived there. They were essentially locked up and treated as specimens, really like mice in a study, okay? And these people were given only liquids to eat, okay? Their only food consumption was in liquid form. And I suppose this just enabled the doctors to better test and to get controls where they could really test adequately. And they tested these people up and down, inside out, and every which way. And these people were, have electrodes and all these different blood samples and everything, exercise routines that were completely charted, and everything was charted. Everything was translated into data to measure what happens to somebody when they lose weight, and it's fascinating results. However, the poor people who are in this study, after 9 months, this one woman they interviewed, she lost a ton of weight, and they sent her out into the world after that with nothing. I mean, nothing. The doctor said, oh, well, you're welcome to come back and talk to us. We're always here. You can always call, come stop by, check in with us. But no formalized form of support emotionally, psychologically. They may have done some things, I'm sure they had a therapist there or whatever, but seriously, the focus was so physiologically based that this poor woman, she said, yeah, I'm really afraid to go out in the world. And they interviewed her a couple months later. And she didn't go off the rails, but she talked about how hard it was to be in the world and see all the fast food joints, in New York City. Every other store is a greasy food joint. And all the kiosks on every corner with all the, the honey peanuts and the popcorn and the pretzels. And, she was bombarded with all this food and really had no tools for dealing with this new life outside of the controls of this floor in a hospital. So, I say that because it's just a case in point that, doing something artificial weight loss without the emotional and spiritual and mental structure underneath is going to fail. And that's mostly what people do when they go on diets. They're imposing a physical plan of eating that strips away the food and the weight and leaves them with a huge void that they have not learned to fill. It leaves them without coping skills for living in a thin body. You have to understand, overeating, we eat over our feelings. And when you take that food away, all we have is feelings. All we have are the feelings that we never dealt with. We've stuffed them down and stuffed them down and stuffed them down. And all of a sudden, we're just left with this volumes of emotions and thoughts and sensations that we have been dead to for years. Imagine, it's like taking a little child who's in this safe, loving environment and putting her on Mount Everest, just airdropping her onto Mount Everest, with no coat, with no food, with no parents, with no love. That's what we do to ourselves when we strip the food and weight away without really building a new lifestyle and a new way of coping with life without the excess food. And so this is my warning to you, instead of going the diet route, instead of being seduced by diets, which are absolutely temporary, right? If you go on a diet, you have to go off of it, okay? That's, being on a diet is, sure, it's great. You learn how to eat better. You're eating salads instead of sandwiches. You're eating carrots instead of French fries. There are upsides to diets. You're learning how to eat healthier portions. Instead of eating 8 ounces of protein, you're eating 4 or 5 ounces of protein per meal. You're cleaning things up. You're taking sugar and bread perhaps out of your diet. These are positive changes, and I'm all for that. But the idea of artificially losing weight and thinking you're going to be happier, thinking that you're going to be able to sustain it without doing the deeper work is, it's really a pipe dream. So I want to just make some suggestions to you that the best diet you can get on is a calendar diet. Okay, a calendar diet is you take a look at your calendar and you start eliminating things that are not healthy for you. Stress is a big part of how we get to be overweight. We're stress eating, we're emotional eating because we're overloaded with emotions and stress. And so you got to go on a stress diet. You have to take a look at what things in your life you don't need. It's time to prioritize and pare down. Do a stress, a calendar and stress diet, and you'll already feel lighter. And when we're lighter, we don't need as much food. We don't need the hot fuel to propel us through this stressful, busy, overpacked life. Do some other things that are very healthy. And I've talked about them before. They're not rocket science. Meditation, walking. Find a buddy that you can start talking to and processing your feelings with. So important to talk. I say garbage in, garbage out. If we take in stress from the day, if we pile on heaps of resentment and frustration and anger and hopelessness, if we take that stuff on every day from the circumstances in our life and our job or whatever, but we don't get that stuff out, we're going to have to pack it in with food. Garbage in, garbage out. If it goes in, it's got to come out or else we stuff it down. Okay? Really important to address your emotions. Learn how to naturally live in a healthier way so you don't need the excess food, so you don't need the escape, you don't need the painkiller, you don't need the punishment of food. I know these are new concepts. Perhaps you're not thinking punishment, you're thinking treat when you think of your favorite foods. But let this sink in a little bit and let's take a new look at how we can live our lives diet-free, but lifestyle-rich. Okay? Thank you so much. It's time to ditch the diets. It's time to dig deeper so we can handle the key. And I'll just repeat this. The key is to be able to handle being thin. Being thin is a lot more than just weighing less. It's a lot more than just fitting into a smaller size in your pants. It's a matter of being able to embody this greater, fuller range of feelings and emotions and thoughts. It's being able to handle what comes our way and metabolizing the various feelings that we've for so long run from. Okay, I hope this makes sense. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next show.
If you enjoyed this show and want to get free support, insider health info, exclusive invites to events, and more, visit healyourhunger.com.